Hollow Creek, a name that promised peace, whispered of tranquility. Nestled deep in the woods, it was a haven for weary souls. A place to escape the clamor of life, to find solace in silence. The air, crisp and cool, carried the scent of pine and damp earth. Sunlight dripped through the canopy, painting the forest floor in shifting patterns of light and shadow. A small cabin stood at the heart of it all, weathered wood a testament to time and solitude. Inside, a fireplace promised warmth, its hearth cold and waiting. The silence was absolute, broken only by the rustling leaves outside. I had craved this isolation. The city had become a cacophony, a relentless assault on my senses. Work, deadlines, the constant press of people, it had all become too much. Hollow Creek was a balm, a sanctuary where I could breathe again. The first day passed in a blur of unpacking and settling in. I built a fire, the crackling flames a comforting presence. As darkness fell, I sat by the window, a mug of tea warming my hands. Peace, at last. That night I woke to a sound, a soft, insistent tapping. It seemed to come from within the walls, a rhythmic tick-tick-tick that sent shivers down my spine. I listened, heart pounding, but the sound faded as quickly as it had begun. Must be mice, I thought, trying to rationalize the noise. Old cabins were prone to such intrusions. Still, a seed of unease had been planted, a tiny sprout of fear in the fertile ground of my solitude. Sleep came reluctantly that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every sigh of the wind against the window pane sent my pulse racing. Once I woke with a gasp, convinced I saw a figure standing at the foot of the bed. But when I switched on the bedside lamp, there was nothing there. Just shadows, playing tricks in the darkness. I tried to convince myself it was my imagination, fueled by the isolation and the stories I had heard about Hollow Creek. Section 5. A flickering dread. The next day, the unease lingered. The tapping returned, more persistent this time, accompanied by the feeling of being watched. I tried to shake off the fear, to lose myself in a book, but the words swam before my eyes. As dusk approached, the wind picked up, rattling the windows like skeletal fingers. The lights began to flicker, casting grotesque shadows that danced across the walls. I felt a cold dread creep into my heart, a primal fear I couldn't ignore. Section 6. The voice in the darkness. Then I heard it, a voice, low and guttural, emanating from the depths of the cabin. "Let me in," it rasped, the words heavy with menace. Terror, pure and consuming, seized me. I scrambled back from the door, my breath catching in my throat. The voice grew louder, more insistent. "Let me in, I was promised." The doorknob rattled, the sound echoing through the cabin like a death knell. Section 7. Flight into the night. Panic overwhelmed me. I didn't wait to see what lurked on the other side of that door. I grabbed my car keys, my phone, anything within reach, and fled. The night air hit me like a slap, the darkness thick and suffocating. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, the engine roaring to life, a symphony of salvation. As I sped away, the cabin lights flickered once more, a malevolent beacon in the rearview mirror. Section 8. Whispers on the wind. I didn't return to Hollow Creek. I couldn't. The memory of that night, the terror, was seared into my mind. I abandoned the cabin, the peace I had sought forever tainted. I told myself it was just a prank, a cruel joke by locals who knew I was alone. But deep down, a part of me knew better. The whispers in the walls, the voice in the darkness, they were real. Section 9. The Legend of Hollow Creek. Days later I met an old friend, a local who knew the area well. When I told him about my experience, his face paled. "Hollow Creek," he breathed, his voice barely a whisper. "There's a legend," he continued, his eyes wide with fear. "A man driven mad by grief took his own life in that cabin. They say his spirit still lingers, seeking solace. Or perhaps, revenge." Section 10. A warning unheeded. He told me of others who had sought refuge in Hollow Creek only to be driven away by the same haunting presence. The tapping, the shadows, the voice demanding entry, it was all part of the legend. I had ignored the warnings, dismissed the stories as mere folklore. I'd been so desperate for peace that I'd walked blindly into a nightmare, and now I was left to carry the burden of that terror. Section 11. The haunting continues. They say the man who haunts Hollow Creek is trapped, forever searching for a way to escape his torment. but I fear he has found a different kind of escape, a way to spread his darkness beyond the confines of that cursed cabin. Beware those who seek solace in solitude, for the silence of Hollow Creek holds a darkness that whispers your name, and once it has you in its grasp, it may never let you go.